Welcome to Raising Extreme Athletes Uncensored. This is your reality check and home for uncensored, trusted advice and stories from the trailblazers who came before us. Because it takes a strategic village to raise an extreme pro athlete, this is your village. Today, we're going to be talking about the connection your child has to the sport. How did that first contact come about? What is that inner reason for your child to be part of the sport? Because this is what keeps them really in the sport until they take it off to that next level. And I want to talk about this with you because this could change everything. I'm Marina, your host, mother of two aspiring rock climbers and wife to an extreme athlete. Let's begin. Okay, so it's really important to understand how and why did your kid get into the sport in the first place, right? What was that initial contact? What was that spark, right? First of all, extreme sports, they are not like your typical thing that the kids see in school. On the contrary, they're actually, yes, they are much more mainstream today and they're much more fun. But the reality is there's still, those outliers, right? Like on the fringe type of a thing, of a sports, right? They're lifestyle sports. They're not like, you go to school, everybody wants to be a football player. In the US, everybody wants to be an American football player or lacrosse, but it's not like that with extreme sports. So what is that connection? For instance, yes, okay, it could also, we could break it down to quite simplistic terms. Your kid went to a really cool themed birthday party and it was a rock climbing birthday party or a surfing birthday party or a skating party and they never had the contact before and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I really like this. I want to give it a shot, right? Or it could be your neighbor, who's been working on his motocross bike this whole time and your kid just kind of like gravitated towards it. So that could be your initial contact, right? The majority, and I'm going to be realistic here, the majority of the kids that you see that are ultra successful have had a nostalgic connection to it. Their parent, their cousin, their parent's friend, or somebody that also will take a real interest in flourishing that sport with the child, right? It's got to be a deeper connection because at the end of the day, if your kid is into rock climbing and you're not really into it, you will eventually stop taking them if they don't have like that deep, like building those roots down to the ground reason for staying part of that sport. It's gonna go away. And that's pretty much like it is with everything we do. So even if you're not, let's say, a skater, but your kid really enjoys it, are you gonna be taking them to the skate park over and over again? Are you gonna be able to understand the passion and then maybe continue with it? That's what's gonna make that difference. In our case, obviously, my husband is a rock climber, and he introduced my kids were climbing, since they were like 3 or 4 years old, 5 years old. They stopped for a while. They went off and joined soccer, football in Latin America. That's a common thing. And aside the fact that, soccer, I'm not even going to go there about the understanding of the sport, but my husband is anti-soccer. He was raised where his father was obsessed with football. All he remembers is just a bunch of drunks. He has a very negative idea of it, and I also learned the hard way. So after a while, we weren't thrilled about even participating in a lot of the matches, right? Or we were always busy for like the go-aways. So eventually, even though the kids started to see the bullying part and dislike that, they started to lose interest because if we had more interest, they probably would have continued and worked past it, right? So with climbing, they came back because my husband was doing it on his own. His buddies were doing it. His buddies are super cool and his buddies had kids and those kids started to hang out with my kids and it became a community. That's why these are lifestyle sports. Now, will a lot of these rock climbers that, climb for fun take the kids to that next level? That's a whole other thing. Are you like ready, if you're skating once in a while with your kid or surfing once in a while, are you ready to take them to that next level? This is where that connection could also see. If not, Are their roots strong enough for them to already have it tight enough for you now to kind of hand over the reins to a good coach, a good team? That would you be interested in something like that? And maybe your neighbor who's been working on that motocross, and they are absolutely fascinated that your child is into motocross, and they are there to be that support that needs to be given for that sport to really flourish and for it to become a real thing, not just a passing habit that, eventually, it was fun, and then you move on. So there's a lot more to it than, oh yeah, my kid likes to surf. Well, are you taking them to the beach? Are you monitoring them? Are they part of a team? Are you, ready for them to start competing? Because that's part of are you going to be taking them to those competitions? If not, are you going to be able to pay somebody who can take them, or maybe, organize with other parents? What's that next step for that deeper connection? And once those roots are really planted and really starting to flourish and grow, there are other ways to help, right? But at that point, the connection has been rooted. And this is underlying most important thing. It's that connection. Where is that connection? And how are you willing to allow it to flourish? And are you willing to let it flourish? That you guys also have to sit down and really think about. Now, I'm happy to talk to you about all our experiences because, like I said, we've had quite a lot of different sports that the kids tried out, and there was many reasons why they didn't continue until they finally, boom, this is their thing. But it did all stem back to that connection, to our involvement with it and our commitment. And I have a lot of episodes on commitment because commitment is absolute key on so many levels. So I would love to hear your own experiences as well, because that's what it's about. It's about building that strategic village, and I'm here to help you build that village, okay? And if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave me a review, share it with your friends, because it is a strategic village.